Good morning, and welcome to another Semen Retention Sunday episode here on the Regal Change account. Today, as you can see, I've got my nunchucks. Aww. I actually really like nunchucks, and something that I want to talk about in today's video is going to be in correlation with these, but we'll get to that in a minute. The first thing that I want to discuss is that semen retention and meeting your soulmates is often going to go hand in hand. And soulmates are not exactly what you think they are. Now, soulmates, I don't really like the term personally, because the semantics of it is very distraught with a lot of tainted spiritual teachings. And a lot of it is actually good, don't get me wrong, but I think it misguides a lot more people than it helps. And so take this with a grain of salt, okay? Now, your soulmate, which is essentially a being who you have work to do with here in this physical plane, this earthly plane of consciousness. In this earthly plane of consciousness, a soulmate is someone that you have to do work with. It doesn't have to be necessarily romantic. It doesn't have to necessarily be through business or friendships or anything of the sort. It can be whatever type of relation. It could be a stranger. Your stranger could be your soulmate. Now, the way that I see it is that everybody is my soulmate. But I mean that technically. I don't mean that literally. Now, the sun is beginning to rise over the horizon as we're talking about this. So this is a very great pattern convergence signal. And for those Regal Change old timers who are aware of the Regal Change channel and the Regal timeline theory, then you're very much aware of what a pattern convergence signal is, which is essentially a synchronicity. So a synchronicity is a meaningful coincidence, right? And with your soulmate, this can happen very, very frequently. Like a soulmate that you're really meant to do a lot of work with, synchronicities can be all over the place. They can be everywhere. And you might not know why, but it's going to be the case. Now, this does not always mean that you're supposed to work with them or whatever the case is, right? Sometimes it just means that, wow, look at that beautiful sunrise. Sometimes it just means that you have a few things to learn about yourself, because everything is a vehicle for freedom when you're on this path of semen retention. And you might meet women, or whoever it is, but specifically women in this case. You might meet women who you're almost drawn to, and you don't know why. It's almost like you're feeling like there's something tethered to this woman, and in your heart that this woman is going to cause you nothing but pain. She's going to take like a spiritual nunchuck and just whack you right off the freaking head. And for some reason, you're just still drawn to her. You don't know why. Likely, there's a few things that are happening. Number one is, if you believe in reincarnation and you trust reincarnation, I'm not saying you should believe in reincarnation. I'm not saying you shouldn't believe in reincarnation. I'm simply saying, because I've worked with people that are Hindu and or in any Eastern religion, not any, but most Eastern religions, reincarnation is prevalent, or at least known about. I've worked with these people, and they want to say that it's a past life connection with certain soulmates, and that's why you feel drawn to these individuals. Now, with the timeline theory, a past life doesn't necessarily mean to be a past incarnation. So a past life could be 10 years ago, and it could be that there's a timeline pattern convergence from the old timeline into this timeline, that you're supposed to learn something from this soulmate. Now, the reason why this happens more on semen retention is because you're literally going through the fire of refinement. You're going through the fire of refinement in a very different type of way than most people are used to. Because semen retention is no joke. And it's not necessarily about, going like for long times on a streak. Like people want to be like, oh, I want to reach to 60 days, or I want to reach to, 30 days, or even a week, or I want to reach a year, whatever the case is. That's great. That's fantastic. However, I would encourage you more to look at, instead of the amount of days that you're able to sustain this discipline, seek first the understanding that you're receiving from this practice in this window of practice, of however long you're doing it. Because what you learn and how you implement it and how you apply it is going to be way more important than going for long streaks. Like, I've met guys in my one-on-one sessions as well as in Godlike Mastery who, they were practicing semen retention, and they were graduating to a point in which they wanted to move beyond it, but there was like this old timeline that was trying to, ring them back in. And they didn't really see it, to be the case. They didn't really see it this way. And they wanted to avoid certain things, or abandon or neglect certain ways of being, because they didn't think that it was appropriate for them. Now, that's understandable. I totally understand that. However, part of Godlike Mastery, in my Godlike Mastery offer, is, and in the Regal Academy, but especially in Godlike Mastery, because this is not like depleted Coomer Mastery. This is Godlike Mastery. This is not like, average Joe Academy. This is Regal Academy. We're not just we're not just willy-nilly out here. My system, this is what I want my system to be. It's going to be the best system, and it is the best system to get out of systems. If it's not a system to get out of systems, then it's not worth anything anyway. But here's the thing: to get out of systems, inside a system, you first have to be aligned and almost not, I don't want to say trapped, because I don't want to trap anybody, but you have to be trapped in the system for you to be relieved of the systems outside of that system. Because that's the paradox. That's the paradox of life. And it's the same type of thing with soulmates. You kind of have to just go through the work that you have to do with these women sometimes, even when it's just annoying, even when it's just, you don't want to do it. Because these women, don't get me wrong, most women out here, all that they want to do is they would rather struggle and go through hell and go through hellishness, rather, than willfully cooperate in heavenliness with a man, because they've been convinced. Like, women have very high capabilities when it comes to psychological manipulation. However, they also have very low capabilities when it comes to knowing that they're being manipulated. That's just the case. This is one of the reasons why they want the bad boy, right? And on my channel, I've talked a lot about the godly bad boy with a full sack. You're walking around and you are that godly bad boy with a full sack. There's this essence about you where people know you're kind of dangerous, but because if you're a man walking around in his backyard with nunchucks, you best believe, something's about to go down. But the way that I see it is, because I'm waging war against the religionists, the politicians, and the government, as well as the education system. The way that I see it is, when my enemies hear my name, I want them to sweat blood. When I have my allies hear my name, I want them to be inspired and do a rally cry into battle. Because we are in a spiritual war. It's not exactly what you think it is, and it doesn't have to be the way that you think it's supposed to be, but it is a spiritual war. Now, if you orient yourself from timelessness, then everything that you see can be used as a melodic instrument to awaken yourself. And semen retention essentially amplifies this, especially when it comes to soulmates. So when it comes to soulmates, because I see the entirety of the existence as one being, expressing itself as one soul in different spirits or forms or incarnations, however you want to define that. Those are my semantics. Those are the way that I see this is because I've let go. I've trusted my experience enough to not be attached to my perceptions of the experience. And that's where I think a lot of people get attached to their perception of their experience, because it's like any victim narrative structure, right? And I'm not saying that most people are victim mentality, but a lot of people are, and man, that sun is glorious. It's almost like I can sun gaze while speaking. That's so cool. So we just live in a really cool place, I'm really blessed to just be doing what I do and being where I be. And one thing that I've seen a lot of in individuals is this lack of appreciation, and because sometimes people will be appreciative, but you don't feel it. People will say certain things to try to flatter you, but you don't feel it. Like, I get a lot of these DMs and such sometimes, and it's weird. It kind of goes through cycles, especially around the full moon or the new moon. And these individuals will say certain things and all that, and they'll try to flatter and these things, and it's fine. But I don't know. It's very strange to be on the other side where you see through the BS. You just see through it all, and you want to encourage their growth, but you also see that many people don't actually want to grow. Many people, they want the mechanics of growth, really. Like, this is the way that I think about it, is because I've seen this a lot with individuals, is they want the mechanics of growth, especially the benefits of semen retention, right? Everybody wants the benefits of semen retention. Well, I want the hot chicks to check me out. I want to feel all powerful and all this. Guess what? You can't keep drawing your source of energy from validation outside of you. Like, that's the whole point of semen retention. It's the whole point of being celibate. And you still want the mechanics of, and the benefits of that inner validation, but you don't want to look inside yourself. It's like Carl Jung says, Carl Jung says that people will do anything, no matter how ridiculous, if it means avoiding their own soul, something along those lines, right? I might be paraphrasing that, but shadow work and semen retention are no joke, especially when it comes to soulmates. No joke, because being in a relationship, no matter what type of relationship it is, it's work, and there must be work to be done and maintained in the relationship. I mean, this is one of the reasons why a lot of people who start to really develop themselves spiritually, a lot of them just want to avoid relationships altogether, because it's like, well, I don't want to be around these people, and I'd prefer to just be alone. And don't get me wrong, like, I was alone for a year and a half or so, from about 2021 to 2022. I was, it was 2021 to 2022. I was alone for about a year and a half. And when I say alone, people are like, oh, I'm so alone. And then they go hang out with family, and they have these, friends and whatever. And it's like, you're not really alone. You just feel alone. You're not really alone. You're not alone yet. You haven't realized how alone you really are. And so from 2021 to 2022, and I realized, like, wow, I'm really alone. And then I accepted it. And then through the last 4 or 5 years or so, because, it's been since 2021, 2022, and it is August 9th of 2026 today. Through the last few years, and I've been doing semen retention, and I haven't relapsed on semen retention either since May of 2022. This is something else I'm learning recently, is a lot of people will say, oh, I've been on semen retention since, 2-3 years. And they'll act like they've been doing semen retention for 2 or 3 years. Like they haven't had a relapse for 2 or 3 years. And then you start to ask them a little bit of questions, or people in the comments start to say, well, wait a second, well, how many, have you not relapsed at all? And then they say, oh, well, yeah, no, I've relapsed. And it's like, this is kind of a deceptive language to me, because when I say, yeah, I've been on semen retention for over 4 years, I mean exactly what I say, but again, a lot of these people out here, I respect the work that they do because it is quality information, but again, a lot of it is it's not going to the center of the matter, because to go to the center of the matter, you kind of have to jump into a cold ocean. You ever jumped into a cold ocean before? It's not fun. It's not a fun experience, because it's going to be freaking cold. But after a few minutes, after like 5 or 10 minutes, your body naturally adjusts. It's the same type of thing with any type of work project or anything like that. And whenever you want to get into a flow state, you have to just jump into the freaking cold ocean, man. You can't just kind of procrastinate around. You just have to jump into it. And I'm not saying that you should, I'm not saying you should go to, get cold showers or anything like that. If you can do what you want, okay? Use everything as a way to get free. Do it, by all means. But don't be attached to these things, because methods are just methods. And unless that method is going to get you out of methods, it's not worth anything. So if you're just doing it because you want to feel something, you want to feel alive, that's fine, but just notice that. Just notice that. Okay? So I trust that this message was received and is received by those ready to receive it and ready to do something that applies this information, because knowledge without application oftentimes is just consumption. And if you want to be a consumer, great, but consumers, they don't do well with me. they just don't. We create here. We create, we explore. We are going to make our enemies, the religionists, the politicians, the government, the education system. You know what? Fuck it. We're even throwing in the health system, because screw the healthcare system nowadays. Like, I talked to somebody recently who was going. This was a while ago, actually. It wasn't too recent. This was a few months ago, but like, they were talking about their experiences with therapy and how one session with me was more helpful than 6 months of therapy, because I wasn't trying to make them be something. I was just listening and allowing the spiritual knots that they were tying to unfold. You know how angry that makes me? These individuals who are going to school for years and years and years and claim that they have a therapeutic practice and all this stuff, and they're not even helping anybody because they don't have themselves. They don't know themselves. So we're going to take our nunchucks and we're going to go to war with the religionists. We're going to go to war with the politicians, the government, the education system, and the health system. So, with that being said, peace be with you, my allies, and be blessed. Until next time.